Hi everybody and welcome to the Global Conference TV. Today we have Billy Selekane in studio and he is going to be chatting to us about the business of public speaking. Hi Billy and welcome.
Hi Beth, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Tell us, who's Billy Selekane? For those who've never heard of you, if there are those people.
You know, this is a question that I get asked by many other people. Okay, I'm typically a township boy who was born in Tembisa, who had a dream, and the dream was to make the world a better place. I did not know how I was going to make this world a better place because I was born with the gift of art. So my original plan was to become a world-famous artist that would paint and write poetry, which was going to be transformational.
Okay.
I did that for the first part of my life, and then God had His own plan, and I eventually ended up in the business of public speaking. So now I'm changing the world by inspiring people to want to be the best that they can and giving them the tools to take the inspiration into action and get results.
Okay, and then how did you get into public speaking? Take me through the journey of you deciding, okay, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to monetize it.
Actually, I did not decide. Now let me tell you what happens. When I was young, I was always in front of people, either in a beauty contest, being an MC and speaking this kind of. So I always had this gift of the gap, as people would say it. But never had I ever in my mind thought it could be monetized or it could become a business. Until one day when we had a business with some friends of mine in Tembisa, we got invited to a public seminar. And in that public seminar, I saw a motivational speaker for the first time. And literally what happened is I had an out-of-body experience. So I left my body and became him and he became me. And it was just like one of those, aha moments that there and there I knew that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But from that moment on, the big question was how? How then do I do this? Because there was no point of reference. This guy was a South African who traveled between USA and South Africa. So after seeing him that day, there was this big thirst and big hunger that I want to do this, I want to become this. But the question was how I was going to do this. I did not know how I was going to do it. And at that time, it was an era where most people nowadays would never even relate to. It was the era of cassettes, the cassette.
What are you
cassettes
talking
and
about?
pen. You see? You don't know what I'm talking about. So, and I then started, using mail order, which you guys don't even know, to buy cassettes from the US, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, and those kind of people.
Yes.
And I started listening and consuming their content, Now, the fascinating thing is, once you encounter such powerful content, it overwhelms you, it sort of transforms you. But so it was a bit of a dichotomy. Here I am consuming this powerful content, but I'm living in an environment or a society that is ultra negative. So each time I shared content with people say, get out of here, this is Tembisa, my man, forget it, it's never going to work. We can't relate. So it was that kind of a thing. But I had this sense of knowing that this is what I was going to be and this is what my life was going to be. But as you know, that when you're too early in society and people don't get you, and there's so much pressure, you end up conforming to society,
Yes.
So I ended up saying, maybe I'm a dreamer, maybe this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just be a normal guy and look for a job, like anybody else. So I went and I looked for a job and I got a job. But when I started working, it felt like I was in a quicksand. A quicksand is the harder you wiggle, the deeper you sink. So the harder I worked for this company, the deeper I sort of sunk into misery because I felt, what am I doing with my life,
Yeah.
Is this all there is? And the fascinating thing is, it was in the liquor industry. And at that time, people that worked in the liquor industry were the men about towns, because they had access to things that people didn't have access to. So they were it's almost heroes in the townships, They had cooler bags, they would go, And I sort of, and then I said, and I looked at these guys that had been in this company for longer than me. And I looked at their lives and I said, I don't want to be like these guys. I don't want to be the guy who everybody likes because I can give them a bottle of alcohol and therefore I think I'm happening. I thought, I can't do this, And at that time, my consumption of this material had grown because now I was able to buy even more and whatever. And then I remember this company that I worked for went to a conference and there came another speaker, black guy, Abna Mariri. The first speaker that I ever saw, to many people's surprise, and people don't believe it was David Mulap, Dr. David Mulap.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The second speaker that I saw was Abna Mariri.
Okay.
And I saw this guy on stage. I thought, oh my God, this guy is awesome, But I couldn't see him after the conference because, he had to leave and whatever.
Yes.
So then I thought it's possible that I could do this. And then again, Abner disappeared, David disappeared, so again I was back to where, how do I do this on my own?
Yeah.
And then I realized that I could start helping inside the company. So I started learning about strategy, leadership, and I started helping inside the business. And I got promoted, up the ranks very quickly. That's when I realized that, I'm wasting my time and my talent here. I've got to go out there and make things happen. And at that time, I was being invited to speak in, this NGO, that NGO, while I was still working. Not the best of speaker, but I had the bravity and the chutzpah to stand in front of people.
Yes.
No matter how bad I was better than them because I was standing up and doing what people are afraid of doing. Public speaking,
Oh, yes.
it's fear number one. People would rather die than speak publicly.
Yeah.
So here I am speaking publicly, and it was natural for me, not a big deal. And then eventually I had to quit my job because I realized that I can't do this anymore.
And when you quit your job,
Yeah.
were you certain that it was going to work out in the public
Well, how certain are you that you're going to wake up tomorrow?
No.
Absolutely. So I was just a man of faith,
Okay.
I just applied faith and I said, you know what? If this is what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to do it. If I fail, there'll be a good story to tell anyway. So I just took a leap of faith and I said to myself, how bad can it be? I was working, hating my job, like most people. Actually, over 80% of people that wake up every day and go to work, they hate their jobs, but nobody's going to resign. You know why? Because they are trapped in things that they shouldn't be trapped in.
Yeah.
Some people have sold their dreams for an installment of an expensive car.
Yes.
And this is funny because each time I'm on radio with Just Eyes, people don't say, where does Beth live? They say, what car does Beth drive?
It's always the case.
It's a very stupid mentality. I'm very sorry to say so. But, I thought to myself, you got to go and do this thing. And I quit my job. And when I quit my job, it was like, you're crazy, man. What are you doing? You don't have a degree, you don't have a diploma, you've got nothing. Who's going to want to listen to you? And I said, well, let's see who's going to want to listen to me.
And isn't it funny that the very same people who've got degrees, who've got jobs, are listening to you now?
Actually, I consult for these people. I coach these people with MBAs and PhDs because most of them, that's all they have.
Yes.
If they wrote an exam and they passed and they got given a piece of paper. That's all they have. I, on the other side, consume over, 4,000 or 5,000 books, continually do, have multiple of mentors, travel the world, developing myself. So, I'm on top of my game because I want to be on top of my game. And public speaking is my game and it's my forte. It's what I do every day, so I've got to be very good at it or stop doing it.
Yes.
That's why I do a deep dive. I go much deeper than a lot of people do.
And would you say, because I've met a lot of people who always claim that they're public speakers simply because they know how to speak well, or they're confident, or they're not shy. But then you listen to them and their content is crap.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you make sure that as a public speaker, you are confident, you can be able to speak well, and also the content that you deliver is as good as, the audience that you're delivering it to?
Well, you see, Beth, you have to research. You have to know the content that you're speaking about. However, public speaking is almost becoming like being a priest. Anybody can put a tent, take a picture, call himself an evangelist. Who's going to disagree with you?
Nobody really.
See, that's the beauty. Now, let me give you the rundown of the industry. There are two bodies globally that regulates. When I'm saying regulate, I might be putting a strong word. Let's just work with regulate. There are two bodies in the world that are the custodians of public speaking. One is an amateur one, and the other one is a professional one. The amateur one is much older than the professional one. Actually, the professional one got born out of the amateur one. The amateur one is called Toastmasters International.
Oh yes, I've heard of it.
People go there and they get taught how to speak and whatever. And Toastmasters International, they hold competitions. District, blah, 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 in the country. And then they have almost like a World Cup of public speaking. So a lot of people go through there. A good friend of mine, Douglas Kruger, has won the South African version 5 times, went overseas but couldn't win. So that's the amateur one. And then you've got a international body like the United Nations of Public Speaking. Okay? It's called Global Speakers Federation.
Yes.
Now, Global Speakers Federation is made out of country associations. And this association started in America. So guys who were Toastmasters, they learned the tricks and the trade of, and then they became very powerful and they became successful. Then they realized that going up again to Toastmasters was not helping them. So they started a professional body. And in America it's called National Speakers Association. In South Africa, it's called Professional Speakers Association of South Africa. In New Zealand, so and so on.
Yeah.
And all of these, they belong to the GSF, Global Speakers Federation.
Okay.
Now, the authenticity or the proof of a speaker who's in the game, really in the game, is based on these two. If you're an amateur, you must have gone through Toastmasters and won Toastmaster competitions.
Okay.
Otherwise, you are just one of those people that go blah, blah, blah. I can speak.
Yes.
In the professional side, if you say you're a professional speaker, you must be a member of the Professional Speakers Association.
Okay.
So these are two bodies. Now I'm going to focus more on this one than this one because this one is easy. It's an amateur body. You go through competition and you win or you lose.
Yes.
But you've gone through the ropes, you know what happens. Now, here in the professional side, this group of gentlemen that started this thing and ladies then said to themselves, how do we differentiate ourselves from anybody who says they speak publicly? So if a customer has a client or a business has a conference, who do they hire? Do they hire Joe Blue that they know says he can speak, or can they use a proper mechanism to find who's a true professional speaker? So these guys came up with a qualification, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
That qualification is called CSP.
Okay.
It stands for Certified Speaking Professional. Like the financial sector's got a CFP, Certified Financial Planner.
Yes.
So it means if you're a CFP, Certified Financial, you've gone through the education, you can be trusted, you belong to a body, their ethics and whatever. CSP is the same thing.
Okay.
Certified Speaking Professional. To get to that designation, you go through a lot of hoops up until you get designated. Now, let me tell you the gravity and the difficulty of getting this designation. Less than 8% of global speakers have this designation.
8%?
Less than 8%. Do the numbers. That's how difficult it is to get it.
Okay.
In the African continent, there's about 12 of us. 13, I think. There's a guy in Nigeria, if I'm not wrong, who got it about 2 years ago. So in Africa, there's less than 15 people that has this designation. So there's the difference between me and Joe Blue from Hammanskraal. You know, the difference between me and Joe Blue from Hammanskraal or from Orange Farm or from wherever is I'm a CSP. I'm a Certified Speaking Professional. It means I play this game at the UEFA level. And this guy is probably playing below Chappies, below the Chappies League. So that's the different, Beth. And unfortunately, in South Africa, we have a lot of people running around saying they're speakers. You know, there's nothing you can do to them. But I usually say to them, the difference between me and you is I'm a CSP.
Okay.
And by the way, the amateur body Toastmasters, which I did not know about for a long time, until I got a call from them, they awarded me, they gave me an award, which is called the Communication and Leadership Award. And that award they give to a non-Toastmaster who has been impactful in the industry as a speaker. So I got that as well. So, so now you understand. So
I get it,
anybody that says I want to speak, I say to them, you don't tell me just that you just want to speak. You've got to want to speak and aspire to become a CSP. If you don't want to become a CSP, number one, it means that your message is not good, which means you cut corners, which means you're an unethical person, which means the claims that you say on stage are not true. Because you cannot, being a CSP, and by the way, every 5 years, you have to renew your CSP. You have to prove that you're still on top of your game, that you still belong to an association, that you're still ethical, because they will call you customers, they will validate you. And another measure of being a CSP is you must make $1 million out of speaking. They will get your bank accounts. They will phone your bank.
They audit your
They will
books.
audit you, you know. And so, if you're not aspiring to become a CSP, forget about it.
But then, is it a daunting process, though?
It is difficult. It is difficult.
But it can be done. I mean,
it has been done. I've done it. I mean, a guy from Tennis has done it. You know, how much more of an example do you want?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it is quite. And actually, a lot of people are saying maybe I should be the guy that creates a platform where I could help other local speakers to become CSPs.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about it, you know. But it's and it's hard work. People must understand it's hard work. It's not.
And also, I gotta say that people also should be willing to do it as well, because you can't force it on people. I mean, because also I think when they look at it, they also feel it's a little bit intimidating as well, which is why they think maybe it's also it's time consuming, because that time they could be using it to speak.
But by the way, it's like I'm saying now, if you look at the way that the world has moved and the way that we're in the middle of a disruptive nature of the world, a person who's just went to Medusa is a doctor, is a general, is a GP. Lap aside. You have to become a specialist.
I think maybe we we're a community that is so used to mediocrity so much that we've accepted it, you know.
Yeah.
And the moment when somebody like you comes in with all these qualifications, you know, doing it the right way, we almost feel like maybe there's something special about them, or you know, it's too good to be true type of thing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think, Beth, it's I'm very sorry, this might sound a bit controversial, but I think it's a black thing. I think, I'm just being honest with you, because if I look at the continent of Africa, you know, people can say colonization, this and this, but those times for those excuses are gone. South Africa was the last country in the continent that got liberated. But look up into the continent. Which country up there can we look up to and say, great things come from here? I don't know, you tell me. I don't know. You know, so I'm thinking that as black people, and by the way, this is not an African thing, it's a global black thing.
Okay.
You go to the USA, what do black people do? They put trousers in their asses and they shoot each other, drive by and all these kind of things. And who do they blame? They blame the white people.
Yes.
But do white people go to South Central Los Angeles and shoot these black people? Not by a long shot.
No.
You know what I'm trying to say? Same in Haiti, same in the UK, same in Jamaica and all these places. So I think as black people, we have to go full cycle. Because by the way, a lot of amazing things came from Africa. Writing came from Africa, paper came from Africa, technology came from Africa, mathematics came from Africa. A lot of beautiful things that changed the world came from Africa, but we seem to have sold our souls for shiny things.
Absolutely. I mean, I read somewhere, somebody said, Africans think Africa is not good enough for them. We always think that the Europeans can do better for us. We always think they can be able to open doors.
No, we have to wake
us.
up and get back to... By the way, a lot of people don't know that fiber optic was invented by a black person. A guy who was born in Ghana, became so great, went to France and went to the USA. So we can become amazing. We are amazing. But like I'm saying, we're selling our souls for instant gratification. We want things now. You want to drive a big car now. You want to wear expensive designer clothes now. Very few of us are very long-term thinkers.
Yes.
If you look at Warren Buffett didn't become a multi-billionaire now.
Instantly,
it was a long-term game.
Exactly.
If you look at Elon Musk, he did not become a multi-billionaire now. It's a long-term game. If you look at Mark Cuban, it's a long-term game. All these guys that I'm mentioning, it's a long-term game. Now, one of the things that we have in South Africa, actually there was an interview that I watched on television in Kenya. So there were these guys, billionaires in Kenya, being interviewed by this guy. And this guy said a very funny statement. He said, now nobody in Kenya can become a billionaire unless they are thieves. And you know what? None of these guys could dispute him, because he said, I'm going to give you the logic.
Okay.
Banks in Kenya don't give money to entrepreneurs. If they give it to you, the interest rate is like crazy.
Yes.
And he says, by the way, a lot of businesses make their money through government, and our government is corrupt.
Yes.
Show me anybody that has gotten a contract that is over 10 million that it did not pay anybody. And nobody could dispute that. So you understand where we're going. We are now a society that says evil is good and good is evil. We can't carry on like this. We have to shift. Now, we are speaking about public speaking, but public speaking affects nations, because when a person stands on stage and speaks, people hold on to every word you say. And some people take it literally and they go and try and do something. So you can't stand in front of people and say things that are not true. There's nothing as common as speakers saying that. I get all kinds of calls from all kinds of people. Oh, Mr. Selekane mentor me, I'm a speaker, blah, blah. So I'm a speaker, good. What do you speak about?
Yes.
No, I speak about wealth. Second question, are you wealthy? No, but you see, Mr. Selekane, I read Robert Kiyosaki, I said, no, come on, Charlie. You are not wealthy. How do you begin to talk about something you're not?
Yes.
So you're standing there and telling people lies decorated by your whatever. You know, you can't go and say, I'm going to talk about how to survive cancer if you've never survived cancer.
Exactly.
It's an insult to people that have survived cancer. So we need to say, as a speaker, you've got to get to a place where it's either you are the kind of speaker that tells your story, which is what we call a signature keynote speaking.
Okay.
Which means your life was like this and you've transformed your life to there. You've applied certain principles and processes that you can share with people too. Or you are a rapporteur. A rapporteur is somebody that learns from a lot of people and say, this is the techniques that have worked. I'm trying them in my life, they're working, therefore I can share with you don't right. So there are a lot of kind of speaking, but you cannot stand in front of people and talk about something that you're not. You can't. I mean, you really can't. And it's very common for people to do that.
Yeah. And then now let's talk about branding and public speaking.
Yeah.
How does one brand themselves so good that it even attracts the type of clients that you want, you know, to hire you as a public speaker? Because you would hear a lot of people saying, I speak, but then I don't get gigs. Or I don't get people to hire me. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Everybody says the same things. They say blah, blah, blah. I'm caught between a rock and a hard place when it comes to branding.
Okay.
Because branding can be something very authentic or can be illusional.
Yes.
And unfortunately, in most instances, there's an illusion of grandeur in people's heads, and they build this inauthentic brand that they portray out there, which is not based on the truth and authenticity. So I'm going to give you my take.
Okay.
So as I progressed in the public speaking, I asked myself the question of branding. I spent time with top branding gurus around the world, and asked them, this branding thing, how does it work? And I also did my own research. Then I realized that, branding has to do with positioning yourself. But positioning yourself has to do with your authenticity again. How and where do you position yourself? So I asked myself this question. I do speaking full time, it's my business, it's what I do. So of course, if it's my business, it must be profitable.
Of course, yeah.
If it must be profitable, I must be paid the right kind of money by the right kind of people. So for me, that's where my branding started. Says, who pays me? How do I get in front of them? And how do I get them to pay me more? Not only once. So I had a choice, and the choice, I could go crazy, put posters, blah, blah, blah. I thought about it and said, would that be authentically me? And quite honestly, no, it wouldn't be me, because I'd be forcing myself into something that is not.
Yeah.
Then I said, the only way that I'm going to build my brand, I'm going to build my brand based on value. So I'm going to deliver value, and when I deliver value, I'm going to create what's called traction. I'll give an example. So if I decide I want to talk to a certain company, I will research them. Who's the CEO? What are their challenges? Their sales? I'll go and find their annual reports, 3 or 4 of them. Again, Beth, a lot of people think speaking is just showing up in a conference and speak and go.
Yes.
No, some of us don't do that. We speak, we coach, and we consult. So we do deep diving. I don't want to come and stand and be paid for standing. I want to be paid for much more. I want to be paid for standing, for coming in and consulting and coaching inside the business. So I'll do a thorough research. Who's the CEO? What do they do? Whatever. And then I'll buy 1 or 2 books, read the book, and mark the book. Okay? Mark interesting things that that company would benefit from. Okay? Package the book nicely, send it to the PA. And say to the PA, this is who I am. I like, you're doing a very beautiful job, blah, blah, blah. I've read these 2 books and I believe that your CEO can benefit from them. By the way, I've already marked them. Please, could you give them to your CEO? And thank you very much. Now, let's reverse the rule. Let's say you, Beth, were the CEO of company X, and you get books from me, and I've read those books, and I've marked very good chapters that your business will benefit from. What goes on in your mind immediately? Who's this guy?
Exactly.
So I have given you value before I even ask anything from you.
Yeah.
So therefore, I have traction with you, And by the way, my technique is quite simple. Once I've done that, I'm then unavailable. I sort of move out.
Yeah.
So the PA then tries and gets me. They can't get me. So if people can't get you, it increases your value.
And also that exclusivity.
You see.
Yeah.
So that's how I positioned my brand, based on that technique. But the key thing is the delivery of value. Once people see you as a person of value, money is no longer an issue. It's how much more value can you deliver.
Yes.
You understand? Because when I started, and the funny thing is, in the early days, speakers were paid like, I don't know, 8,000, 10,000. So if a guy was charging 10,000, was like top dog,
Yeah.
I charged 12,000. Because there was the thing, who's this guy charging 12,000?
Yeah. Who do you think
You understand?
are?
But once people ask the question, who, then people found out, hey, this guy, you don't know him. Man, yeah, he came to our company. This is what he's done for us already. The person that is inquiring about me feels the 12,000 is not enough. He feels I should be paid more because, again, I've created this thing called the perception of value. And that perception of value is based on actual value delivery. And then when I'm on stage, when I get given one opportunity, I then ask myself, who am I going to talk to? Which audience am I going to talk to? Do I need to sell as I speak, or do I not just need to deliver an experience? But an experience that I've got a very powerful content that they can take home and apply and get results. So every audience you plan, I can have the same keynote for 20 different audiences. I will tweak it and customize it based on who I speak with. And here's what I do. I say, when you're on stage, you've got 60 minutes. Always remember you're competing against Hollywood. People want to see a movie. If you're not good on stage, you're dead. So I get on stage and I kill it. And once I kill it on stage, I have sold myself to people in the audience. Somebody's husband is a CEO somewhere, HR director somewhere. So that's how I naturally build my brand, up to where it is today. Now, the people that work for me always say, oh, Instagram and all these fancy things. I do appear in these stories, but I'm still very
traditional in...
Not traditional in a sense. I'm still very weary with how social media gets exploited and used wrongly, you know?
Okay.
So I will post something that is meaningful once in a while and people respond to it and whatever. So it's kind of, so the branding question, it is a very delicate balance between authenticity and frivolousness. You know, people post when they're sitting in a plane. People post when they're eating breakfast. I'm thinking, if I can post my pictures in a plane, you're never going to post your pictures again. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I don't do that because I don't want to be appearing to be arrogant and say, look at me, Billy Selekane, I'm flying first class, I'm using jets, I'm using helicopters, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not important.
How do you think entry-level public speakers can take advantage of technology instead of posting all the other stuff like food and...
They must post content. They must go, you see, and by the way, if you're just starting, go to Toastmasters. Okay. It's not negotiable. Don't come to me. Because number one, what can I teach you? Quite honestly. I mean, think about it. Do you think Bruce Lee could teach a guy with a white belt?
No.
No. Bruce Lee would want to teach Chuck Norris, Jim Kelly, the guys at his level. So I work and coach speakers at my level, CEOs, you know, sales directors, those kind of people. But a guy who just started, go to Toastmasters. It's the best education you can get. And if you are exiting from being a professional HR person, wanting to get into the speaking industry, probably join both Toastmasters and the PSA, because the PSA will bring in speakers that will talk about techniques, others will talk about social medias, others will talk about branding. So they will teach you all kind of professional strategies and processes that professional speakers use in the industry. But when it's just starting from zero, you know, go to Toastmasters. And by the way, if you cannot answer the question why, don't even start. Because I usually say to people, why? Why must people listen to you? If you yourself cannot answer the why, don't start.
And what are some of the reasons why people start? What are some of the reasons why people...
It's because their eyes are their worst enemy. Because they see somebody speaking and they think they can be like that person. You know what I'm trying to say?
They think they can be better.
Or they think they can be better, which is an illusion. You know what I'm trying to say? And I've seen people who stand up and say something and I'm thinking, wow, man, you gotta be speaking. They say, no, what do you mean? I say, it's amazing because this person stood up with their truth and authenticity. They were not faking anything. Yeah. Because people have got this American thing, fake it till you make it. Be careful not to end up faking it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. At some point you have to make it.
And at some point in time, the fake has to disappear and you have to show up. And some people just, oh my God, they just fake it all the way.
Okay, just to wrap up, do you have any thing that you want to say about public speaking or anyone who want to get into public speaking?
Okay, let me say, speaking has changed the course of history.
Okay.
Great speeches have started wars. Great speeches have stopped wars. Great speeches have inspired people. Speeches have depressed people. So, before you even get into this industry, why? You know, ask yourself why. And the why must be so big that the why must be above your little need. The why must be above your ego, wanting to be famous on stage and traveling the world. Your why must be big. Because let me tell you, the world, the way that it is, it needs inspiration, but it needs authenticity more than it needs blah, 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 frivolous inspiration. So before you even start, ask yourself, why do you want to do this? Is it for money? Is it for fame? Why do you want to do it? And if your why is not good enough, don't even start. Because along the way, you're going to hurt somebody. You're going to cause pain to somebody. And you might not know that person, but that person might take something that you've said, which is not true, and try and do it, and they have this major catastrophic failure. Some might even take their lives.
Yes.
So I'm saying we need people to inspire the world, but we need people that are truthful, that are authentic, and that are willing to work hard. But that do this not only for money, for fame, but that do it because they know that the world needs to change, and it can only change if we find inspiration from each other. And public speakers are the men and women who has the ability to transform people, not up here, but also in their hearts. So before you even start, ask a question, why?
Wow, such powerful words. I'm so inspired.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and we'll see you next time. Keep watching the Global Conference TV, changing the world one inspired and transformed person at a time.